It brings me back to old times when like we were talking to everybody. You know, it was cool.
Yeah. Transport's going to feel a little bit like that this year, I think.
I hope so.
It's the reunion. Yeah. Right on.
Josh,
Joey,
you going this year?
Josh, Mike, yeah, you guys going?
We're here.
I'm good.
No, I mean, are you guys going to Transworld?
Are you guys going to Transworld?
Oh, we're going to Transworld. Yeah. Yeah, we have a booth. We have 3 booths every year.
Excellent. Very cool.
Sadly, I will not be there this year.
What?
No, oh, bummer, man. Why?
All the snow that we've had and missing work, I have no more vacation days or anything. So.
Okay, gotcha.
So not this year, but maybe next year, hopefully, or Midwest too. So.
Okay, cool. How about you, Joey?
Fingers crossed.
I've got too much work to do here, so.
Yeah, understood.
It's just a 2-man operation besides my crew here. So I haven't been in 4 years, 5 years. So
yeah. 6 years for me. 6.
It's been about 4 years.
You haven't been in 6 years?
I have not been in. I think. Let me think here. 2015. What year is this now? Yeah, it's been about 6 years.
Yeah, we actually have like the whole crew coming this year.
Yeah, it's insane.
Cool.
Can't believe it. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
How to hopefully avoid the COVID.
I'm not worried about that shit. I'm done with it. It's over.
Amen. Amen to that.
Hey, Margaret's had it like 3 times in this house, and I've never caught it, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I must have built up something. I don't know.
Yeah, either that or you're the one that's been carrying it around and giving it to her 3 times. Asymptomatic one.
I know, it's all the alcohol, I'm telling you. Dude, keep it going. So we good, Phil?
You're muted or something. I can't hear you, Phil.
I had to pull the prank.
Oh my god.
Fucking Phil.
Nah, I see we're live. We got a couple people in there. Howdy, everybody.
All right.
Hello. Testing 1, 2.
Well, we'll get started. Well, I don't know if you want to take it over, Diablo.
All right.
Thing, maybe.
All right. Woo! Haunters Hangout Season 10. We've been doing it for 10. Can you believe we've been doing it for 10 years? Oh my God.
I'm old.
I know. I'm feeling older than you. It's been 10 years since we've been doing Haunters Hangout, and we've got a lot more sponsors. I mean, and we love all the support that we've been getting from them. So make sure you go to all your haunt needs. Make sure you go to our sponsors. All their links are in the videos that we post on the Hangout. I mean, we appreciate them. We love them. Thank you so much. And that, gives a little extra something when you watch the show, plus all the information that you get. And we got a great show tonight. It's set design, everything from building to the decorating to the prop settings. It's going to be a great show. And we're going to hand it over to Pandora. And she's going to tell you what you need to do to win the prizes, and then after that we'll show what the prizes are from all our sponsors.
Hey guys, welcome. Season 10, Episode 2, Set Design. Thanks again, all of you, for being here, to our guests and to our audience. Tonight's night, we have from Halloween Shirts Company, a free shirt. Fright Night Studios, a bloody hatchet. Thank you very much, Mike.
Right.
Fright Props, $25 off. Oh, yeah. Phil, where you at?
Phil slacking.
My computer's not working right now. I can't do anything about it. I'm frozen.
Uh-oh.
Good job,
From Fright
Phil.
Props, we have $25 off. From Cobwebs and Candlesticks, we have a grab bag gift. From Rotten Prop Works, we have a set of arms. Glad you're healing up, Becker. From Scarlet Badges, 10 assorted badges. From Monsters Alive, $25 off. From Sam Haynes, a free download. 4 ornaments. Tonight's ornament is a bat house. Drop Dead Design Studios, 25% off. Toxic Effects, we have a Shrunken Head. Froggy's
No.
Fog, gallon of bog fog.
It's Shrunken Pumpkin.
Shrunken Pumpkin Head. All right, we can do Shrunken Pumpkin Head. All right. Froggies, we have a gallon of bog fog. From Ned's LEDs, hashtag I am the Ned. 5 LED sample pack. From Nightmare Makers, we have 1 unpainted skull.
2.
2 unpainted skulls. See, this is why Jose is supposed to send me lists before the show.
My bad.
From 916 Productions, we have $25 off. And from Atmos Effects, we have a free download. So thank you again to all of our sponsors for all these fantastic prizes that we give away every single show. Please make sure you give our sponsors first for all your haunt needs. And with that, Phil.
No.
Whippersnapper.
What do they need to do before they get their prize? Come on.
Nice.
Oh, all right, fine. I get you on the prize list. You get me on that. That's
Right.
fair. If all you need to do tonight to win a prize is to please ask a question of our guests. Even if I don't get to your question, you will still be entered to win said prize. If at the end of the show we announce your name as a winner, you must get in contact with Diablo no later than Sunday. I'm sorry, no later than Saturday night by Sunday.
Right.
Yes? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? All right. No later than Saturday night, you must get in contact with Diablo via Messenger in order to claim your prize. And with that,
All right.
Let's get the show on the road.
Right.
We're a little rusty. It's been a year.
It is. It's been a year.
It's been a
Last
year.
week.
Yeah. Oh, and P.S. and by the way, this is for RJ. It is absolutely a Monday for me right now, RJ. You have no idea. All right, go on.
Yeah, so we are going to get into an amazing show we have for you guys tonight. We have an amazing panel. They have some amazing photos that they're going to show us. Joey, Josh, and Michael are all going to go into how they got into haunting, what they do in this haunt industry for us. And so we'll start off with Joey. Joey, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little background on yourself.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Joey Marsachi. Most people call me Dr. Grimm. I am in Hartford, Connecticut, and I've been haunting for on and off for 25 years. I come from kind of a theme park background. That's what I went to college for, was theme park design at CalArts in Valencia, California. So I think, honestly, going on the Haunted Mansion as much as I did when I was a little kid is what sent me down the road of wanting to design haunts. And I was out in LA and going to Knott's Berry Farm and stuff like that. I mean, it's been awesome. Most of my work's been here on the East Coast as far as haunts are concerned. I worked for, I think, 3 years with Ed Gannon with Spooky World when it was in Foxborough.
Love Ed.
And I was doing, Ed's awesome. Started off doing makeup mostly with them, but then I was running their torture chamber for a while, which is fun. But my background truly comes from designing concepts, from the drawing to fabricating and everything in between. So costumes, props, whatever. And right now I'm in Hartford, Connecticut. I am the creative director of the Curioporium here in Hartford, which is not exactly a haunt. It's a haunt. It's an immersive theater experience and an escape room all wrapped into one. So myself and my partner, Nathan Nunez, created this during the pandemic. Took about 9 months to build, opened in July, and we've been going ever since. So that's me.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joey. From going from the set design, then we have Josh, who does all the set detailing. So Josh, why don't you talk about yourself?
My name is Joshua Adkins. I am from Huntington, West Virginia. I got my start in haunting when I can't remember. I was just little. I remember that. About 7, 8, I started doing home haunts, yard displays, black plastic around the porch, having the trick-or-treaters come up, scare them, doing all that stuff. I moved on to, I started decorating my grandma's yard, which I live in her house right now. So I decorated her front yard and built the first walkthrough little home haunt. It had like a kitchen, a doll room, the slaughter room, all that stuff. So that kind of got my start in creating haunts, building haunts. From there, I got into theater. I started doing makeup, gore makeup, special effects, all that good stuff. And then I started working out in Wayne, West Virginia at the community trail that they had, which later turned into 12 Pole Manor, which we are located in Wayne, West Virginia. I do the scenic detailing and the scenic painting for them. It's like out there, I mean, the 3 owners are like, we're like best friends, and then our family out there too. Everybody there is like a family, so we all have different things that we do out there. But I've started since I was a little boy, building haunts, wanting to create the haunt. Just putting people in that atmosphere has really been just my passion with it. And that's what I get out of doing the scenic detailing and scenic painting. And I've been at 12 Pole Manor since the very beginning, since we opened the door, which I think we're going on our 6th season. But I've been doing that for them since the very beginning. But that's basically where I got my start, was doing home haunting and then progressing into pro haunting and doing all that good stuff. So
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Absolutely. You got to start somewhere. Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And then next up, we got Michael. So, Michael, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Michael Burnett. I've been haunting, again, like these other guys, since I was a kid. I grew up in California, in Southern California, not too far from Disneyland. I have always been a big fan of the Haunted Mansion, but I started out as a kid haunting. I've always been interested in special effects and horror movies, and Halloween, has always been my favorite time of the year. So started haunting my parents' house and garage. It kind of grew to the point where it got to be too big for that, and started doing going into the backyard and expanding it. Growing up in California, we had Knott's Berry Farm, which is one of the first big theme parks. So when I went to college, I did makeup and worked on effects for Knott's Scary Farm for several years in the early 80s, and got into movies and involved with Universal Studios and did a lot of haunts with them in California prior to Halloween Horror Nights, and ran Halloween Horror Nights in LA in the late 90s. And then in the early 2000s, moved to Florida, where I am now in Orlando. And I ran the makeup department for Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando up until a few years ago, where I retired from there and I'm back freelancing. One of the things I love about this business is it's always something different. My makeup effects is my main thing. So I'm always working on people's faces and things, but I also like making animatronics and props and things like that. And now I'm currently working with my wife, Lynn, with Fright Night Studios and designing, and we're creating effects for Halloween Horror Nights. We did stuff for Busch Gardens, Dark Harbor, which was same people who do Queen Mary. 13th floor, all kinds of stuff we ship around. And one thing that people, the older people who remember Transworld way back in the old days might remember my company, Michael Burnett Productions. We did the corpse kit, and I still see those popping up every once in a while. A lot of the old timers know what that is, and we distributed a lot of those things through Morris Costumes and Ruby's. Did hundreds and hundreds of corpses and decapitated head kits and skeleton kits and all kinds of cool, fun Halloween stuff. So Halloween has been part of my life for the last pushing 50 years now. So, yeah.
Dude, it just makes me warm in my.
100%. Me too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. Man, you got quite the resume there. So,
damn, I feel like I ain't doing enough now.
I know. I gotta step up my game. All right. Well, we'll bring it back to the top to Joey to talk about that amazing little set he has behind him. So, start sharing some photos here. Once my
So, we were talking a bit behind the show here, but this. Let me see what's going up here. So the Curioporium, was born pretty quickly, but it's been something that I've been kind of percolating in my head for a while to do this kind of immersive theater, similar to Sleep No More, but with a lot more technology. So this particular room, which is our salon here at the Curioporium, behind me, and that is part of the machine that's just over my shoulder. I should say that besides the haunt industry, I'm also known quite a bit in the steampunk realm. That's where the whole Dr. Grimm thing came from. So I've been doing steampunk specifically for about 15 years now. Not in the way of just like goggles and ray guns and stuff, but I've built things for the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas. Has about 7 of my pieces, 2 of them custom built. They're two telescopes, steampunk telescopes. I've done stuff for Hendrick's Gin. I designed their 35-foot steampunk truck that toured around the world, slicing cucumbers wherever it went. General Cigar. I've done a lot of that, and so I incorporate steampunk into my horror because Dr. Grimm is very much a villain. And this machine behind me is a 35-foot by 17-foot tall seance machine. So in that picture, that's just part of it. I think go to the next slide. There might be the other piece of it that's behind me. And that is all
Real quick,
designed
Joey,
out.
Forgive the interruption real quick.
Oh, sure.
Sean would like to know, Sean Boswell, where do you get your lighting from, and what is your favorite way to light a scene? And to back up on that, Keith would also like to know if you're using LED or incandescent as well.
I am using all LED. Reason being, a lot of this was custom wired and custom built LED. We certainly do have LED cans that are above in the room, which I do all the lighting for this particular room. And some of what's behind our vault in the other 7 rooms. Nathan has designed that with me. So, but LEDs primarily because this particular machine behind me runs off of Arduino. So I'm trying to keep the voltage as low as possible. And also just because there's so much tech within this room. And most of the stuff that's in the back, LED just works a lot better. So some of it I actually do just cobble together my own lighting from. And others, it's just, if I need chaser lights, things like that, it's all just basic Amazon. And then I kind of hack it because that's what I like to do.
Yeah, the pictures definitely
nothing ever fits my needs. Yeah. So I just kind of go with what I need to. So this machine behind me, that's the main part of the machine. It runs off of again, the entire thing runs off of Arduino, but there's many different hidden cabinets, like the 2 cabinets below the brain jar that's running all the time have decapitated heads inside of them. So at the right time, we open those and fog comes pouring out, cold fog, or chilled fog, I should say. And so there's just a lot going on. And the fun thing about this is a concept of, I drew all of this out first, and then I kind of have to find, I'm somebody who fabricates from scratch, but I also use vintage pieces. So in the picture there, you'll see that is a vintage wine cabinet from like the early 1900s. And the mirror that's there, it's a vintage mirror that has a monitor behind it, so that I think you can see in the room with me right now that every once in a while something appears on the screen. But this entire thing goes through a sequence from the start of the control panel to revealing the mummified corpse in the coffin back there, or the piano. So one by one, all of these machines turn on and activate, things like that, it's in the process of doing that behind me right now.
Now, Joey, if you don't mind me asking, how do you start with your concepts? Like, how do you walk into a room that's completely bare? How do you start building your set?
So we look at the footprint first. I look at the footprint. I look at the, where are our electrical outlets? If we need to put them in, fine. But with this, it's what's existing. So this room, 9 months before July, was just a bare black room. And then it's like, all right, so where's our entrance? Where's our point of, where the audience is going? Where's the flow of the audience? Because that's always the biggest thing for me, is where's the flow of that? But design-wise, when it comes to something like this, I'm big on silhouette. That's something that I picked up in the early days of doing like Disney animation and things like that. So everything has to have a very specific shape to it. These things this machine is very much Frankenstein together. And I say it's 30 feet long because, as you can see in the picture there, it starts with that 1980s control panel. And this machine was Frankenstein together throughout time. So it was originally built, story-wise, in 1892. And then over the years, different scientists would come in with different technology and add to it to try to get the machine to work. And that's part of our story. So design-wise, I knew that I had to be very specific with the materials that I was using, what I was fabricating, what was found, and how does it all fit together to be form and function. Because I'm not a steampunk designer in the way that I just glue gears onto things and that's that. Like everything back here, every detail, the rust, everything moves, everything has a function to it. So I, as also the performer here, can interact with anything on this giant machine and it will do something different. But the Arduino is running the main program of the 15-minute seance that we perform here at the beginning of the show.
Dude, that's crazy.
Pamela would like to know how much time from design to fabrication does it typically take?
So one of the big things for me, and I know this goes into steampunk, which this isn't actually about, but a lot of the machines that I build as Dr. Grimm have to do with brains in jars. So I built like the Amelia Earhart machine, the Edgar Allan Poe Nightmare Inducer. I fuse history into the design. So being a designer, from concept to fabrication, means that I do a lot of research on what was the type of machinery that was used at the time. And luckily, in the late 1800s, there was a lot of quack doctor invention shit going on, and I like to incorporate that into what I do. So it's not just, that's why everything kind of starts with a drawing for me. I know that I have like a main piece, like for instance, the the emptied out, the hollowed out grand piano back there that's holding that corpse. That was something that was here in the store, but it was just a shelf. And I was like, can I use that as part of this machine? And then incorporated the story, because I also helped to write the stories for these things as well, and the script and everything else. So everything is hand in hand with me.
Kit would like to know how many actors, aside from yourself, how many actors do you have?
We have 4 total that we swap out during the first 5 months, I think right after October. I was the only one who plays the main actor, and then we swap out. There's an assistant here in the room as well. The assistant doesn't go through the entire show. And we also have 1 tech person that runs behind the scene. So there's 3 people during each show that are operating everything that goes on. And that means tripping sensors and lights and things like that from behind the scenes while I'm doing what I'm doing. But I also do it via remotes that are hidden on my person as well.
So speaking of actors, now as far as scares or the interactions go, at your design level, do you automatically have an idea of where they're going to go, or is it kind of on the fly? As your babies come to life, you adapt.
It's based on the story. So I'll put it this way: with this particular show, it's a good mixture of comedy and horror, because I'm a huge fan of comedy and horror just goes well together. That's this particular story that we tell based on this family and the character that I'm playing. What we're adding to the show is a darker version of the show where all the same tricks will be there, but there are other things that will be activated for that show that make it scarier. The sound is completely different. The effects that this machine does are completely different. The video effects, everything changes. So when I'm trying to design for a show, it's coming down to where are those scares happening so that they will ramp up the excitement during the story. Because I feel like any haunt that I've been in, I also worked at Horseman's Hollow for a good 9-10 years from when it first opened, and that's in Tarrytown in the actual Sleepy Hollow. And that was a haunt that I loved working on because everything in it was period and story driven, so it was very theatrical. So it really allowed me to work with the director and say, okay, this scene needs to be set up this way because the scene has an arc to it, but the entire show has an arc to it. So that means every room has an arc that incorporates the sounds that are running, what you're going to see, what you're going to experience, and what the actor, because it's improv based on the 6 people that are here, has to incorporate into the story, those people into the story every night. So there's a lot going on at the same time. And places like the Horseman's Hollow, every haunt is improv, obviously. Like every actor is like, you either get stuck in a loop or it depends on your theater background, I guess. And I'm not an actor, but I'm a performer, meaning I don't learn scripts. I improv really well, which is why I play Beetlejuice.
Dude, Pandora, he's right down your alley over there.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Cindy would like to know, what is the most rewarding and the most difficult thing about the interactive versus a standard haunted house?
The most rewarding, I think, for me is to, we really didn't know if this was going to work, first of all. I mean, this was kind of, I have a much bigger idea down the road. I have many different haunts that I have on paper that I would like to bring to fruition that have this interactive theater to it. So they're not your standard haunt. And the rewarding thing is seeing that it worked. And every show, because you really, unlike a normal haunt, I guess, if you could even say that. I mean, haunts are beautiful because you get so many different reactions from people, but I feel like you really don't, like, you guys all talk about the screams that you got at the end of the night, right? And with this, it's like, I'm right in people's faces for 90 minutes. I do not stop. I am from the moment they walk in to the moment they leave. I get to see their reactions. I get to see them laugh. I get to see their fear. I get to see that look on their face when this thing activates behind me, and see their awe. That's really rewarding. The hard part comes with the design, having to change the story, knowing that it may not work, having to change the humor, knowing that it could be better. So it's constantly evolving. And that's the great thing about this place, is that I may run the weekend and say, you know what? I'm going to incorporate this on the next show and try it out. I'm going to do this on the next show. I'm going to move this jump scare over to here and see what happens. And we have the flexibility to do that. It makes it a little more difficult for the other actors, I would say, because the other actors that we have here are actual actors, and I am not. So my brain is just crazy, and I will just come up with stuff and say, okay, this character has 40 years of knowledge behind it, and so we're gonna incorporate this part of their story today. Nice. What it does is it makes it fresh. It's constantly making it fresh. So when those people come in, they don't know what they're experiencing at all. And sometimes we don't either, right? Because we don't know who's going to walk in. We don't know if they're going to be talking, if they're going to ask questions, if they're going to be interactive with us. We have no idea. And that's why there's another actor here. Because it's not just me talking. It's other things like the other actors interacting with them and with me to make new situations all the time. And you just have to be ready for anything. So that is a very hard thing to do.
Nice. And now, Joey, so now when you build your set, I mean, with the photo that I have up on the screen now, I'm not sure if you can see it, but when you get into designing this wall here, what, how do you start from the ground and build it three-dimensional and everything? I don't know if you could see it with typewriters and all that stuff.
So with this, again, it comes, for me, everything kind of comes down to story. I don't care what I build, what I design. It has to have a story behind it and a functionality. So with this clock, this is actually 95% my partner Nathan coming up with so that piece that you're looking at is behind this machine that's behind me. So the picture that you saw before of the big cabinet, this is what's behind it. And the story is that this machine is two things. It's a seance machine. It's a steampunk seance machine, but it's also a stasis generator. Beyond the door here is a vault filled with paranormal, cryptozoology, demonology, cursed artifacts. And that machine, the stasis generator, is what's keeping everything in a very docile, sleep-induced state so that the people can travel through it without being murdered. So that machine, the pendulum moves on it, the things are all moving around it, things like that. It's lighting up, but that's what's keeping our people safe. And we get a taste of it when we're in this room of what happens if things do not work correctly. Right. And so that is clearly where we're going.
That's like
with that.
That's like an amazing storyline right there.
Yeah. And just before we move on,
he's got everything
Joey,
right down to the T. It's awesome. I
he
love
does.
it.
It's perfection. And just
I will
before
never
we move
be
on,
that
Joey,
good.
Ken was late, and he's like, "No, wait a minute, start over." He was late. Phil.
All right. Sorry, my bad. So thank you, Joey. We're gonna move on here to Josh. So Josh, I know you talked about how you do a lot of the set detailing, and do you mind going into, how you start? I know you probably get a blank wall, plywood, whatever it might be, and you got to make it look pretty from there, or ugly, however we'll say.
First off, our haunt is located in a actual home from 1889. So we don't have the whole, like, some other haunts are in a abandoned building. They have more room to create bigger sets. We have to work with what we were given. So we will go into a room, kind of come up with a concept. The owners will, and they will let me join in on that, kind of coming up with ideas of what we want to do this year or what we want to create in this room, the path, all that good stuff. We work with that. So from there, they start to build that, which I'm not always patient because they'll get walls up and I'll be like, okay,
I'm
I'm
just
ready to
waiting.
paint.
I'm just waiting. When can I go?
Let's do this. And they're always like, be patient, be patient. Let's finish the room first. But usually, like, when they start building, I get in my head and I'm thinking of what this should look like, what happened in this room. There's little details in each room. Like this room right here, I can't give away exactly what the full room is because it's a new room for this season. But the whole house, if you see the front of the house, which I didn't send any pictures, but the whole house just looks, it's an abandoned, rundown house. So everything inside would be ran down, falling apart, the paint peeling off the walls, the rust. There's different spots in there too, like blood marks, like what happened here. I will come up with like a scenario in my head that some kind of violence happened here. That's why there's a blood spray on the wall, or there's certain mold over here. There's mold in the ceiling over here. But typically they will build the room and then kind of pass it off to me to go in and paint it. I don't do it. I try to go by what kind of room it would be on what kind of detailing. Not every room would get the same kind of detailing. I would try to mix it up. Some rooms have tiles, some rooms have concrete. Wallpaper would be different kind of paint like a different painting technique. I've learned
Mind going into that a little bit?
On like wallpaper, I would typically when you spray walls with the water and stuff on the wallpaper, it doesn't tend to stick very well. So I will usually do where you spray water and spray paint at the same time, so it creates that grime buildup that runs down the wall.
Nice.
You can do it in browns, you can do it in black, but it just creates that gritty grime because it breaks up the paint. So as it runs down the wall, you have these chunks of spray paint on the wall. Going back into wallpaper, you could do tears in the walls. Because the glue wouldn't stick the whole time. Depending on how long that house had set, abandoned, and not kept up and all that, the glue wouldn't stick. So just going into stuff like that, you want to think about if, like, the wallpaper, if the glue would stick, or the concrete, would it start getting mold? Would the tiles be moldy? Because obviously nobody's cleaning that house. But also, this picture right here, this is actually outside in our carnival, which is probably one of my favorite things to do, is the carnival stuff. But this is just a fun sign by the concession stand that has been out in the weather too long.
That brings me back to, like, back in the day when I went to, like, the drive-thru.
Like the drive-in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I always think of, like, whenever I see this, I always think of that song that's like, let's all go to the lobby.
I still remember that. Yes. And just offhanded Josh, Bry Baker would like to know whether or not he just saw the puppet blink.
The puppet? Oh, behind me?
Yeah.
He probably did. I mean, I have a ton of dolls. This is actually in my house. This is not the haunted house. So my house is decorated like the haunt. So,
That's
but
awesome.
our haunt, I will say, when people come through, it's almost like an episode of Hoarders, because I like to add a bunch of junk to each room, because the Deadwood family, that's what we call ourselves. The Deadwood family, they're not the cleanest. We are located in the country. We're in West Virginia. So the first thing people think of West Virginia is like wrong turn kind of people. So that's what our
The hills
our
have
house,
eyes.
Nice.
Yeah.
yes, our house and family is very much. We've had the comment of we are like Rob Zombie's movie House of a Thousand Corpses. That's what our house is set like.
Damn,
We are set.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I love that. I
We
love this
are
pic
set
right
in
here. I love this pic right here. You got like the perfect, like, it's
Streaking.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I like the streaking.
Yeah.
That was a new room that I did. That's that same room that the rust was in. I want to, this year I've been really trying to research and learn different techniques, not to do this so much just black and white streaks here and there. I want to really make it feel natural and just really make the guests feel like they are in the atmosphere. That's probably one of my favorite things, is to just transport you to this whole different atmosphere. You leave the outside world out there and you come into this house and this world and you are in there. I mean, you're surrounded. I mean, the house itself really gives you that authentic feel for the guest. This is a pic of one of our hillbilly shacks that we built this year. It's very swampy. If you can see over in the corner, I did some like swampy weathered wood. That all started out as just plain wood. I went through and I weathered it, and then I went in and painted it and built up different layers of weathering to the wood and added some Spanish moss. And then I just wanted it to look like over on the table, like it was like an old workbench, just messy. I mean, tools thrown around. Just like they would go in there and work. And then, it wouldn't obviously be clean. Later on, we added some gore, which I don't have a picture of the gore that we added in there. But
Now,
Barry,
Josh. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Barry Flanagan would like to know, what is the square footage of the haunt?
oh gosh, I'm not sure on that part, but we are located dead set in a neighborhood. We have a 2-story house, which from the front it looks small, but it's a 2-story house and it goes pretty far back. And then once you exit the house from the second floor, you go into our backyard trail, which a lot of people, I do some actor walkthroughs to make sure the actors are doing what they're supposed to and all that good stuff. And just hearing guests' reactions when they're walking through, they will start outside of the house and be like, oh, good, it's done. And then they go into the trail and they're like, oh my gosh, it's still going. And it's pretty long. We use almost every single square foot of that property for haunting.
That's
so.
awesome. I just went through a haunt like that. It was like I went through the whole house, and then it was like, oh, it can't be over. And then we went through like a long ass outside haunt. It was awesome. I love the how it turned out. It's like it ended up being like a 40-minute haunt. I was like, yeah, this is awesome.
That's what ours is.
Just to let all of you guys know, the questions are coming in fast and furious tonight. So we're definitely not getting to all of them tonight. So please, if you would, after the show, make sure you take a look and see if you can't get some more of these questions answered for our audience. Appreciate you.
I have to say, too, that this barrel's in great shape for being in a haunt. I mean, by the end of the season, these things are destroyed.
There is no actor in there. There's actually an animatronic in that shack. So we have some other barrels, other places that have been beaten to death. So
yeah.
I will say that one. No actors are around that one, but our other barrels, yes, we do.
So, Josh, going into this photo real quick, I mean,
yeah,
how important is texture to you when it comes to like some of these details? I know on the first photo we had, some areas where it was built up. I mean, how often do you try to do that in some of your sets?
I do a lot of layering. I will do one layer first, and then just your basic layer of just trying to get that weathered age look to a lot of the walls first. And then I'll go in. It depends on, not every single room is going to be gory. Not every room's going to have blood and gut. It just plays off of what kind of room it is. This is actually one of our old morgue rooms. So in there, I really wanted to build up the guts and the gore, which blood detailing is actually one of my favorite things. It's the messiest, but I love it. Sometimes I'll go to work, like my normal job, with permablood still on me.
Shit never comes off.
It doesn't, especially if you haven't. I've had it in my beard and my hair. It's been awful, but I like to build up the layers, even with like dusting things. Go through and add that layer of dust in rooms. Cobwebbing. Cobwebbing's another one of my favorites to go through. Add that layer of cobwebbing to certain items, certain rooms. Even if you wanted to, like, we have one room that is in the house, but we made it look like an old crematorium room, and we put the concrete on the walls. We rolled concrete, or I guess there was like a plaster concrete that was tinted gray to look like concrete. So it feels like you are in, it's actually this room, yeah. That used to be our old funeral parlor and had regular walls, but then we put that concrete. So if they were to touch the walls, they would feel the concrete. And yeah, you can see we even added the bricks behind it. Travis Robinson, he is like my partner in crime there. He does a lot of the building. Shane and Ramey, they're both owners. They go through, they do the building, they get it all ready. So he added like the brick behind the walls, and then I would go in and plaster around the brick, do stuff like that. And then that barrel, I love doing a lot of grime to things. So I like to make it look real nasty, which that had a water effect. So I had an old rusty pipe that would trickle water down into that barrel. But texture is really important. I think it really brings a room together instead of it just being so flat paint-wise.
There have been so many questions about that for you too, Josh. For instance, Alejo was asking about the contrast in your paint. Do you really amp up the contrast because of the lighting in the haunt itself?
Oh, that's a good question right there.
I typically like to, now we have our regular work lights, and then we have our show lights. I'll typically like to paint first in our regular lights, and then I will halfway through check it with show lighting. Now, not always is all the pinpoints and stuff like that in the room, but I'll try to get the basic show lighting. So you really want to work with, because you can't see everything in the dark. You'll do all this intricate work, and then if you don't have the right lighting, then you just don't see it. So we typically like to go through and make sure that we have the right pinpoints on the right details. Maybe an area that is more detailed than other, you want to really showcase that. Like in that one room with the rust, below that cabinet, there's a workbench, and I have like an old, I even printed off like old files of like papers written, old vintage paperwork and stuff to lay on that desk, and just different things. And then we put a work light underneath the cabinet, so it really shows all that intricate detail. I know a lot of people don't see that when they come through, like your typical normal guest.
Oh, but it absolutely matters. All those that little bit of lighting for sure. So this is a really great place to put in a shameless plug for Ned's LEDs, because that is exactly the type of lighting you need in your haunts.
One of our sponsors.
To our sponsors for that type of lighting, and I bet Josh would give me a thumbs up for that as well.
I would. Lighting is very important to us scenic detailers, because if you don't have that perfect lighting, you don't see your work that you spend hours on. But going back to, we see us haunters, us haunt enthusiasts, we look for those details. I always tell the story, in our old kitchen room, we had a ashtray, and I went around and picked up everybody's cigarette butts that had been used, that they had thrown down, and I took those and I individually hot glued them in that cigarette ashtray, just so to give
Freaking brilliant.
that nasty effect. We have fly traps in our kitchen with real flies in them, stuff like that. So
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
we
I want
all the haunters that go through haunts. I mean, we know there's going to be a scare. We know there's going to be something, but I guarantee you, we spend most of the time looking at the detail.
that's
We're-
that's what we do.
Yeah.
Every time I'll either like maybe run into the person in front of me while I'm like looking around, or
Walking slow.
walking slow, holding up the group, or
Yep.
I mean, I get scared easily, like even going to haunts as a haunter myself. So that doesn't help me when I'm not paying attention and looking around and actors are popping out. So,
Nice.
but yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josh. Now you
You're
give me an
welcome.
idea. I got to find roadkill and bring it to the haunt.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah.
West Virginia, it's perfect.
Yeah. Nah. But thank you, man. We'll come back to you. So next up, we got Michael. So Michael, I know you do a lot of prop design. You know, like you said, makeup, effects, scare effects. So I know we have a little pick here that you want to talk about. But feel free to-
Well,
Yeah.
so the stuff that I do
Dude, that's
integrates
awesome.
in
That's
with.
awesome. That's like the creepiest shit I ever seen right there.
Thanks. Well, now if you notice, it's just the front third of a pig. So
That's what makes it creepy.
so- yeah. Well, I'll show you when we get into it a little bit more. So, you know, my background is I've worked on a lot of horror movies, and that's kind of what got me into Halloween and haunts. Is I love horror movies, and so kind of my thing is I like a haunt to, like, you're totally immersive, like you're going into the haunt, like you're going into a horror film, you know, like you're living it. And you know, which is why working at Universal and Warner Brothers and stuff worked out great for me, because you know, a lot of it were IP movie things, and it was really cool to kind of bring that stuff to life. And so realism is really important to me. And like Josh was saying, you know, the detail. You know, haunts are dark; they got to be dark, but you don't want to lose that detail. It's got lighting is so critical, but if you don't have that detail, you know, haunters are looking for it. I know I always do. Maybe your average haunt enthusiast isn't looking for that detail, but they would notice it if it wasn't there. They might not remember seeing that ashtray with all those cigarette butts, but those kind of details give it such realism, you know, such authenticity, that they will notice it. Yeah, they will notice it if they don't go through it. So we're, you know, I usually come in, it depends, you know, like I said, I've worked on a lot of big, like, theme park haunts, and those are very structured. You know, they start with, you know, when I worked at Universal, Halloween was essentially a year-round thing. We would start, we would by the end, when I left there, we would start designing next year's haunt while that current year was going on. And it starts with blueprints and really detailed stuff, because obviously, you know, it's a big theme park. They have hundreds of thousands of people going through it, a lot of safety concerns and whatnot, and a lot of people, you know, fire and you know, city government people looking at it. So it's really, really critical. And then, you know, to your home haunter who, you know, is kind of just has an idea in their head and wants to say, well, I want something over in that corner, you know, but I'm not sure what it is, you know. And so these kind of pieces have to be made to fit in there. So this one in particular, I thought was kind of a cool thing. So we did a thing, it's called Weird's Night. Let me see, I'm gonna get this right because I think of course I had it on my phone and it disappeared. Dang it. It's in Minnesota. It's a haunt in Minnesota. And so Brandon Weird, who's the creative director, he called me and he said, hey, I've got this room, and I've got a body hanging. It was already an existing room. We got a body hanging, kind of like on a meat hook and dripping. I don't remember if it was dripping then, but he wanted it to be dripping. And he goes, I think it'd be really cool if a pig was like eating the chunks falling off of this body. And I thought, okay, cool. So how much room do you have? And he had like this little tiny space. And this pig, the full pig, is 60 inches from snout to his hind end. So there was no way he was going to fit in this little tiny room. So basically I took just the rough dimensions and stuff he gave me and then backed it in. So if you can show the next couple of pictures. So that some people like that's the mechanism. It's a very simple mechanism. We didn't have a lot of room. That's a Fright Props piece. And his head, which you'll see in the video when we see that, his head goes up and down.
Yes,
yes, indeed. I just wanted to slip that in there, So,
Michael, Danny would like to know, in your opinion, what would you say are the top 3 things to keep in mind when detailing?
The top 3. Well, I would say think about when you're focusing on it, where the audience is going to be looking. What kind of things. I mean, because you can use detailing to draw their attention away from the scare. You want to have everything very detailed, but you're going to have certain areas that you're going to focus on, which is going to work with the lighting, how they want to light it. So I would say you want to make sure it's, and then keeping it balanced. You don't want to have everything all in one spot and nothing else everywhere. Just keeping it natural, so that it feels like it's organic, like the things, the items that are there make sense. So when people come through, it just, it's one of those kind of weird things where if they notice it too much, then you probably did it wrong. It's like, that's kind of the stuff. Oh, there's our pig.
Sorry.
No, you're good. We're ready to go to the next thing. It's like this pig here, we had, the lighting was going to be in that one specific spot. So I just built enough so you would see what it was. So that shows you the pig, haired and ready to go with his little mechanism. If you can go to the next shot.
Now, real quick before we move on, Michael, how long do you spend on like a sculpt as far as like getting it from a detail to, the finished product, I guess, or from a concept to a finished product?
Well, this was a 5 foot, 5 foot long, adult pig. So that was a, pretty decent sized sculpture. This was actually done for a California lottery commercial. We had to match a real pig. And so that's what this originally was done for. And so that one, we had a time frame on when we had to film it. And it was we probably spent a week, 5 or 6 days sculpting it, and with a team of several sculptors. So it all varies, if I'm, for Fright Night Studios, who I work with now with my wife, if we we have our own ideas of what would be a cool prop, and it might not be for a specific haunt or a specific project. So, I might spend several weeks on that, sculpting on it, adding more detail because I don't have a specific deadline. It's maybe just getting it ready for Transworld. So it'll vary. I mean, we basically do it in however much time we have. And the nice thing about having done.
I'm so sorry, Michael. Please continue.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. What's the question?
Victor would like to know, do you use more natural lighting versus colored light? Do you have any tips on getting it right?
I think it depends on the look that you're looking, I mean, my thing, of course, is like this type of thing, the realist, we do a lot of animals and people and creatures. And I like colored lighting when it makes sense. If it's moonlight coming in through a window, you want to have a blue cast to it. If there's some fire effect, you've got like a fire, going, or candles, you want to have it to be a warmer light, and you want to have that reflecting on it. So I kind of go with what makes sense. If it's just a light in the room, if it's a fluorescent flickering light, it's going to be more, it's going to have that color that people know. So I think it's colored lighting is really important to help set the mood, as well as, and you have to be careful when you're building a prop like this, or even, Josh would know, when he's painting, if he paints a room green and they put red light on it, it's not green anymore. I mean, those, when you gotta worry about those kind of colors when you're building the stuff. So even with this, with this blood, if they put a lot of green light on it, you might not even know that was blood. It'll change the color. So this is a little test that I did because I built this in Florida, shipped it to Minnesota. So just so that they could get an idea of what we're doing. So you can see that's all you saw of the pig in the haunt. So we made it. I got the exact dimensions, which were pretty tight, and then we test fit it. We just used some cardboard boxes to mock up that space to make sure that it would work in that space. Because if I install it, which I'll do a lot whenever possible, then obviously I can adjust it. But something like this, and if we're doing it for a haunt, and we do stuff for haunts all around the country, we try to get as much information as possible from the, like from Joey's, like when he's doing these designs and drawings, all those specific sizes when something like this has to retrofit in there. Because it really sucks if you're down to the wire and, something's off by enough inches that it won't wedge in there.
For the record, Michael, Barry loves that pig and would like to buy it. So this is probably a great time to talk about the fact that you will be at Transworld with a booth, and there is indeed the opportunity for him to purchase something similar. Yes.
Yes, this is my most of the stuff that I built. We started doing more stock pieces, I guess you'd say. We do a full size pig like this as a stock piece, but mostly what I do are customize the pieces. And that's what's kind of cool about having done so many movies and haunts and things. I have quite a library. So for that pig, for example, so it was originally made for a California lottery commercial. What's that?
Mike, do you want me to show the video while you go into this?
Well, no, let me just tell this quick thing, and then we can do it. So this was originally made for a California lottery commercial, and it was based on a real pig. It was then used for a movie called Not Another Teen Movie, and we made a pig that was passed out. It was like stoned, and so it was like passed out on its back, which they can't get a real pig to do. So we made a prop pig for a feature film. It was then used in a TV show called House, where they needed to do a pig, and they needed to have a pig and we actually made it breathe. In that, we just made a breathing mechanism, because they can't train a pig to lay down and act dead or act asleep. So they had this real pig, which they walked around, and then we matched this guy to that pig with a breathing mechanism because they used it in a medical procedure. And then it was in Halloween Horror Nights, in one of the American Horror Story rooms, and a few other, and then this particular one here. So this pig has shown up in a lot of different things. But if I had to sculpt that pig from scratch for a haunt, it would be way more expensive than working out of our piece. So that's kind of the nice thing about having these stock pieces. I think somebody mentioned Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. So if anybody, like in that movie, so at the very end of the movie, there's a sequence where it's Dr. Satan, I think, and going into Dr. Satan's lair, and they are running. The main girl, I don't remember her name, but she's running through this almost like a mine shaft with all these corpses on the sides of the walls, like through all these corpses, the 1,000 corpses, and she ends up in Dr. Satan's lair. That was a scene they added at the last minute. They needed something. It wasn't in the original script. And so all those corpses were my corpse kit that we had modified. And we actually only made 100 of them. So there weren't really 1,000 corpses there. There was only 100, and they just shot that that hallway or that mine shaft over and over again, and it made it look like she was just running through, hundreds and hundreds of corpses.
That's freaking awesome.
But
it really is. Bobby
That's
Atkins
so
had to make the joke: short pig, 60% off.
but so that's the cool thing about having these kind of this sort of library, like that mold behind the pig. That's kind of a famous guy. That's actually a mold of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's his body cast, the back half of it anyway. We did a mannequin for Batman and Robin to build his costume on, and for stunt double. So that's a body form of his. So I got a bunch of different body forms, and he's a really beefy guy, so sometimes you need that, you can't just use a skinny little body. So it's just nice to have that variety of options, because to make that mold from scratch, again, like I said, to do it for, which we did, Universal, or Knott's Berry Farm, or, some of those bigger haunts, they can afford to do that. But to do it for smaller haunts, it just, doesn't work very well.
Quick last question for you before we move on to the next, Michael. Patricia would like to know how you found yourself in this business to start. Just a quick answer. I know you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but
yeah, I, as a kid growing up, I loved, I'm going to date myself, but growing up in the late '60s, early '70s, it was TV. I watched a guy called Sinister Seymour. He would show Saturday night, and I would show like Svengoolie. A lot of people know who Svengoolie is. So he's a horror host in LA for a while, and
it's like way back.
I just grew up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's some OG right there.
Yes, it is. I know. I said I'm going to date myself. So, I just loved horror movies, and staying up late watching the horror movies, wanting to know how they did them. I loved special effects. I was lucky to grow up in California, in Southern California. I used to go. To Universal Studios whenever I could and go on the tour. Back in the old days when they had a tram tour, it was a whole different thing. But I made my own Super 8 movies. But every time I did it, it was always science fiction or horror related. Frankenstein or monsters and whatnot. And then of course the Halloween was my favorite time. We were always doing crazy stuff. A lot of parents wouldn't let me, I would do fake cuts and run around like we cut our arm off and freak moms out. So a lot of parents wouldn't let me in their house.
We forgot about the video. Let's show that.
Oh yeah, so we can show what you can get a quick kind of see what this guy looks like.
All right, let's see. There's no audio, so just giving you guys a heads up.
Well, Michael, why don't you talk about it while we're seeing it?
So. All right, so this was we just set it up really quick, and just to go. So he's just like going down. There was, in the actual haunt, they had a big bowl of meat and stuff that was dripping off this body, and that was it. If you go, you can check out my Instagram. It's MBPFX. I've got that on there with the audio, and there's a bunch of other videos and stuff. If you're interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Hey, and if you're skilled, Fright Pops has the mechanism for it.
Yeah, Fright Props has some
saying.
Really. That
Just
was
saying.
Pico Control. I used a lot of Fright Prop stuff. They're really good. They get it out quick, and so I'm gonna plug the other sponsors.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. We'll come back to you here shortly. But while we're at the midway. For those of you that are just tuning in, and for those of you that might be new to this show, we have some amazing sponsors to give away some awesome prizes to you guys. All you simply have to do is ask a question to the panel we have here tonight, and it enters you in for a chance to win one of these amazing prizes. This is the moment where I would have it up on the screen, but I'm a bad host. But
it's Monday. We decided it's Monday.
It's Monday, yeah.
It's Monday.
So, but with that being said, good luck. hope you win an amazing prize tonight, and we'll find out at the end of the show. So, back to the top, Joey. We're
Yes.
gonna pick up where we left off with some of your photos. And
Okay. Yeah, I have to say that going into the other two conversations, the details and things like I love the details. And one of the things that through any haunt that I've been able to work at, like I know that most people aren't going to see those things, but it's like Pandora said, if it was missing, it's like, there you go. I don't know if Pandora said that. I'm not drinking at all, and I should be.
I am.
I'm
I
just
am, and it's
stupid tired.
Monday. We're okay.
But like, yes, exactly. But it's like here, like everything, like this room is very much set up very colorful on purpose, and then it gets much darker. The mood changes. So the lighting changes within each room as well, and this entire experience gets darker and darker. But for me, I think one of my challenges, so I'm completely colorblind, but I have learned how to see color like you normal people do. So my process of painting these props and doing the layering and the weathering and what it looks like under normal light versus spots and things like that, like it's very much a challenge for me that I love. So this particular haunt is very colorful in places because it slowly starts to degrade, but all of those little details in every cabinet, the first room you go into, which is the library, you can literally go through all the drawers, the books, you can look and touch everything in that room, and it's the only room that you can do that in. So it's very important to have old letters and things like that that people can look at, pick up vials and things like that. And it was all built from the ground up. So in this particular, going back to the conversation from before, I was basically working with about 1,800 square feet, and it was 2 big boxes. And the store used to be a curiosity store before, and it was about to close due to the pandemic. And then I approached Nathan and said, hey, wouldn't you like to spend more money and turn this into something else? And he said yes, because he believed in me. So together, we kind of took charge. It's like we figured out what the floor plan would be, where the walls need to go to move through those rooms. It was always planned that it would be 6 people, whether it's the pandemic or not, because I really wanted to do an experience where it was personal, where it was, just the people that are there are the only ones there. And as soon as you walk through the door, you have stepped back in time. You don't know where. And for the next 90 minutes, you are going on an adventure.
I'm just amazed that you said that you're like kind of colorblind, that you have such an amazing lighting in there.
Well, yeah, I think it more so when people see my 2-dimensional work, like the renders, which I sent you guys some. That's when I think people really are impressed by it, because for me it's like colors are feelings, they're not just numbers, and so that's how I've had to learn it, like what are these feelings evoking, the hot versus the cold and things like that. So very much within the room, even the room that I'm sitting in, as it's changing, there are definite color changes that are bringing your eye from cold to warm to more natural lighting, candle lighting,
really,
and things
really
like that.
cool perspective for sure. And Darren would like to know if you think being colorblind and learning the colors has an advantage. It may come out not so cookie cutter lighting or coloring, and he thinks that that's awesome, and I agree with him. I think it's cool that you've got the feelings that you're associating with colors.
I think it does make it makes it more interesting for me because I do see things differently than most people. Back in college when I was still trying to figure out how to fix the colorblind issue, I had a great color design teacher that was like, oh, if you put a red gel over your work, you'll be able to see, like, I could figure out colors, but my depth and shadow was off. And so that's really where that started to help. So sort of like when you're in an old, I'm going to date myself too, when you're processing film, you have that red light and it allows you to see the depth and the shadows and such. And that's really what I'm looking at. So for years, I would wear red gelled glasses so that I could look at what I was drawing and then adjust as I went.
Wow.
So even in like the creatures and stuff that I built, you know, there's layers and layers of detail and color and things like that. One of the creatures that I just built that's sitting in the room with me here that I can maybe show at the end if there's time is very much inspired by the Angel of Death and Hellboy 2. And I really wanted to create something with that bone crest texture. Now
I can absolutely that correlation. Excellent.
Yeah, I felt like it lived in the same universe. I was trying to like figure out. I wanted to make my own Grim Reaper, so I went to the original Grim Reaper, which was Nurgle, the Sumerian god of death, and there were 7 gods, and so I designed this particular creature to kind of fit into that world because I love that design of that bone crest, but I wanted to do it differently, and I also corresponded it into the logo for the Curioporium. So as it turns out, the family of the Havishams, who are what this show is all about, were worshiping this death cult, and that's how they got their power. And so this god is very much here in person now, and he sits about 8 feet tall. I finally found a good use for the Home Depot bone throne. Gave it a little extra texture and stuff, and now he sits in that and towers over it, so it's very fun.
Right. I love this picture right here. This is crazy. You make that?
So that's yes, that is the Chupacabra, the mounted Chupacabra. So we've got that's in our cryptozoology room, the Hall of Unnatural History, where there's handmade creatures of all sort. We have a leprechaun that I sculpted. Nathan built this gorgeous mermaid. She's not gorgeous. She's horrible looking, but she's in a cryogenic freezer. I built a baby Cthulhu that's in a big steampunk tank. We have a baby werewolf named Luna. We have all sorts of creatures here, and they're all handmade. There's like an Ent. One of my tree creatures is right above it there. One of my demons is there too. So there's a lot of different, detail and story. Again, it all goes back to story for me. But what I loved about hearing both of the other panelists talk was that, yeah, that's, having those nuances there. And a lot of haunts don't take the time to do that. And some of them are really great at it. And some of them, they don't have the time and money to do it, or they don't have the eye for it. And those texture, the texture in that house, gorgeous. That the deterioration of the wallpaper and that's just great.
Right. I love how I love how you just take some and put papers up there, and the shit looks awesome. Like this picture right here, man. This is. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, and that's it's like a lot of again going into history and finding the right papers and then aging the papers and making notes on it and things like that. And in some cases, like there's handwriting on the walls that's in black light that might show up at some points and things like that. So there's a lot of different things. We also use, we use a lot, like tech-wise, we use a lot of old school. I used to build illusions, so I'm very much into using like older illusions and stuff like that. And then we have light forms here. We have 3 light form projectors for masking out and animating our scenery and things like that. But I also do custom costumes too, which is something that I still do. At the top of the show, I mentioned, yes, I'm the creative director here at the Curioporium. I also run and have been running for 20 years Grimm Studios, or it used to be Dr. Grimm Laboratories, now it's Grimm Studios, where I do commissions on anywhere from consulting to designing to coming up with elaborate costumes. Like this is our Krampus. Again, sitting on the bone throne. But that's, doing the prosthetics and, designing the costume. I love doing that. One of the things that some of the haunters on Haunters Hangout may know me from, but not know that it's me, is the big steampunk scarecrow, the steam-driven scarecrow called the Harvester, which is this guy. So he is a custom hybrid of a costume and a puppet. that also uses VFX sound inside of it. So it has it has programmable sound. It also has I think it's called the Mega Stomper from back in the day that they don't make at ThinkGeek anymore. That would alter how fast or how powerful you walked. It has lights in it, which you can't see right now. It's got fog that comes out of the mouth at night and things like that.
Dude, that's awesome.
But it's
It
all
really
Awesome.
is. Yeah.
it's all handmade out of EVA foam and pipe insulation foam. So
Excellent.
that's
Dude, that's awesome.
Joey, Ryan would like to ask a quick question. And this goes back to the lighting again. He wants to know if you feel the set looks just as good without the effects lighting.
I think it does. It depends because unfortunately the natural lighting in this room is fluorescent, which is horrible. But there are if you were just to light this room just with regular kind of Edison bulbs and things like that, which do go on during the process of the show, it feels a lot more realistic. The reason for the show lighting in here is part of the story, and that slowly starts to go away as the seance starts. It shorts out, and then we have the spirit energy and things like that. So things start illuminating on their own because they're.
Dude, that's a lot of work and a lot of thinking.
It is, but it's again, I love those details. I love the story, and I appreciate it in every movie that I've ever watched, every haunt I've gone through. I also just slow poke around and look at the details because that's art. I mean, it is a huge talent to be able to do those things, to sculpt. I mean, in this room alone, like I hand sculpted the mummy that's in the case, the heads that are in the refrigerators back here, so much of it, like I have had a hand in. And right now we're looking at some renders. So these are hand-drawn renders. This was for the renovation for the Haunted Mansion. Some of these things ended up in the very crappy Eddie Murphy film. Some of these things ended up in Paris Disneyland. We were going for originating the original story of the Haunted Mansion with the bride and the groom and Gracie and things like that. So it was more so going off of the original story of the Haunted Mansion and telling a more theatrical version of the story.
Right. So what you're saying is like they tell you what they want, and then you draw it all out and say, is this how you want the scene to look?
It depends on the client. I mean, for this, I was the co-director for it, so we came up with the story. So basically, it's like we'll get set up into teams, and there's usually like the how should I put it? There's the budget oriented team and there's the wish list team. Best way to say it. So we'll come up with this whole dog and pony show of the attraction. So it'll be everything from the storyboards, the color renders, which this was my job here doing this, and this is where you can really see like where I excel with coming up with depth and color, even though I can't see it. So this is all grayscale to me, everything that you're looking at. It's 50 Shades of Gray. So,
without the sex, huh?
So for this, it'll go from, I had a team of like 7 people. We worked on the story together. We then worked on the renders, the storyboards. I will then build models, miniature models of the layout of these rooms, some of them very detailed, some of them just being out of foam core, just so you can get the footprint and lay it all together and see where the track is going to go and things like that, where the lighting is. And having miniatures, like I love doing miniatures as well. I wasn't able to share. I only put haunt-related stuff in here, but there's so much more either at grimstudios.com or on my Facebook or Grim Studios on Facebook or Instagram. I build miniature models as well that will be the set. so I can see and light it and see, okay, that's how it is. Now, I can't always do that, but sometimes you have a budget and they allow you to be able to do that. So some of these rooms were actually built.
That's amazing that you could like show pictures of the haunt and how you want the rooms to go, this and that. That would like help.
So this was the concept. I love this one in particular because the whole concept of this new haunted mansion is that you would enter through a crypt that forced its way out of the fence on the outskirts, and the house was not normal size. It was actually just a smaller scale up on a hill. But you never saw anyone winding through a queue outside. You would see them go in, and you wouldn't see anyone ever leave because they would show up next to pirates.
Bobby wants to know if prints are available of these because they're beautiful and they're wanted.
These are actually just in my personal collection. This was, I'm kind of old school, so this is actually those renders were all hand drawn, hand inked, and done with marker and gouache and paint. And then we've got stuff like this, which is completely done with. I would hand draw some of the elements and then I would build them. This is all done in Photoshop. So this was setting a scene. This was for, where the heck was this for? Now I'm trying to remember. This was for a haunt it was an indoor haunt, but like the background was going to be projected. So that cityscape being in ruins, it was kind of a zombie scene. And then, they would have live on the set beyond that fence was projected, or a painting or something with smoke projections. And then everything else was part of the set. But in this particular case, this is something I purely built in Photoshop. I drew it out as a render first, just hand draw, really sketchy, get their approval, and then I'll go to this extent depending on what they want.
I wish I had the money.
Ryan.
I wish I had the money to forge you.
And Ryan wants to know, Joey, are there any other set designers or artists that have been great inspiration for you?
Oh, geez. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of old school. So a lot of the Disney stuff, like Mark Davis, one of Disney's original 9 Old Men who designed, he not only worked on animated films like Maleficent and Tinkerbell and things like that, but he designed part of the Haunted Mansion. Yale Gracie, of course, who worked on the Haunted Mansion. So many of the older, the OG crew of Disneyland and Universal, like those are my inspirations. But also just as far as the design aesthetic, again leaning into steampunk. My concept for a lot of these brain and jar machines, and even this machine here, or the Demon Project, which is a huge kind of fantasy horror story that I've been working on for years with models that are done up in makeup and sets, those all come from my childhood drawing. So I would draw things in my journals, I would keep them, and I always go back and reference them. That's very important to me as an artist. I don't care how crappy the sketchbook is or how crappy the sketch is. Things like, if I can turn my camera around, I did like a 5-minute sketch of trying to figure out this Sumerian god. And this is what I was talking about before. But I really wanted it to be like an original Grim Reaper. And there you can see kind of the crest, but even in the detail of it, this is a puppet that works like Big Bird. So my hand would be operating the head up above, and it has a false arm that moves, and my real arm. And right now it's just sitting in a chair here as part of our set. But every once in a while, we're going to do a live, hey, come and have an evening with the Grim Reaper. And this thing will come to life in front of people, and I will perform inside of it. But doing those sketches and working out the silhouette of the character, like the Harvester is a very specific silhouette, so it's him. By tree demons, things like this. I love when things have the lighting is very important, but the silhouette of anything, whether it's a crop or a creature, is super important to me, and that all comes from just doing sketching and things like that.
Awesome, Joey. Thank you so
totally
much,
awesome.
man.
Thank you.
The knowledge and the experience, man. It's awesome. Thank you for coming on and sharing all this tonight,
Oh,
man.
I'm happy to. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, so.
Make sure you keep dialing the number for your second chance.
This is great.
So awesome. Thank you. Now, Josh, we're going to bring it back to you.
Okay.
So I know we talked about
Oh,
texture
wait,
earlier.
Phil.
Oh,
We did not announce the fact that we decided that Monday is the official drinking word. It is Monday.
Monday.
You can all write
Monday.
down. Cheers.
Monday.
It's
All right.
Monday.
I gotta get
Did
a
I just say
drink.
that many times in a day?
All right. Apologies. Continue. It's
Oh,
Monday.
Dude, hey,
So I know we talked about texture before, and I know you mentioned cobwebbing. So
that's
this photo's
beautiful.
great for that.
That's beautiful right there.
Thank you. Thank you. Our house is, like I said before, it's very, I don't know, not hillbilly, but very country. But we do have certain rooms. This is our living room. That is very Victorian kind of setting. It has a grand fireplace in it. We have the two organs that were actually they bought those. And then actually in that painting, that's not wallpaper. We went through and we just painted the wall green, and then we got this stencil and went through and measured and stenciled it on to kind of give that Victorian vibe to it. In some areas, like when you zoomed in, you see the texture on the texture that is just patted on spray foam to give that bubbly,
Nice.
moldy, grungy effect.
Yeah.
Dan
That's great.
would like to know what your favorite texture
Dude,
is to
that's
create.
that's beautiful right
Ugh.
there.
Texture. Well, like I said, I like to do the blood and gore detailing a lot. I like to do a lot of moss work too, like out in our swamp scenes, like in the shack, there is a lot of moss on the front. I did the weathering of the boards here. Like I said before, the boards were just plain boards, and then I went through and weathered them, and then I went in and painted them with some whites and greens, and just gave it that swampy, weathered wood kind of feel to it. But it's also a workshop, so you have all that in there. In this picture, see, a lot of the stuff people might not notice, but this room particular, I will say, is a morgue room. In here, I would picture it being very moist in there, because I picture a morgue and embalming room to be very cold, damp, just moist, and especially over time, all the moisture would just stay in there. So I wanted to add a lot of grime in there, just a lot of buildup of whatever that is on there, just this gritty, grimy, gross kind of feel to that room.
There's a lot of questions about the webbing, advice for doing it outdoors, how to keep them from being destroyed. How do you add it to the scene? Do you have air power behind you, etc.?
We have a oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the gun, but it is I think it's a Black Widow from Fright Prop. We use that for our
Right, props.
Fry props.
we use that for we stepped up from the I think the $40 web gun, the Webcaster, which did great for us. The Black Widow, I will say, is a lot better. It's a little more pricey, but you get what you pay for there. The webbing, I don't do a lot if it's directly out in like sunlight and the rain and stuff. I try to keep it if it's in shacks and stuff like that. I do that, but we do have a lot of natural, like in our outside sections, we get a lot of natural webbing, so it kind of helps us out. Oddly, we get a lot of spiders, especially in our clown area, so it's really weird. In this particular, this is just a door, but I love it. It started out as a plain white door, so I wanted to go in and add the grime and the dirt to it. This was before we finished the rest of the room. As you can see, some missing boards there and paint and stuff, but I wanted to take that and just give it that age kind of look to it. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out.
That's
But
awesome.
I love the red, and I wish I could see the whole room, because you got
Yeah.
like the door, and then you got the red colors on the side. I wish I could see the whole thing.
our that's actually upstairs of the haunt. Our hallways and yeah, this was a hallway. We were actually in the middle of changing this room to a trophy room with all the animal heads and everything too. But we do the two-tone walls. We have a lot of two-tone walls. I think it really helps split up a wall in the haunt. It actually just gives that. It's not so flat to me. You have the two. Usually, you will have a darker color and then a lighter color. You can vice versa those. Here, this is in our carnival.
Dude, that's amazing, right
Yeah.
there.
That I actually
that's great.
free-handed that.
Scott would like to know how close patrons are allowed to get to your scenes, and are there any issues with them getting damaged from any touching?
This past year we had a lot of, I don't know if it was because of COVID and quarantining, but a lot of props were getting destroyed, or trying to. We've had people pick up props, trying to take them away, or stuff like that. Just kids doing
That's
stuff like
horrible.
that. But you are as close as just walking in your house. I mean, our sets, you are in the set. So you are right up against the wall. You are in that room. You are it's just like being at your house, basically, except for a lot dirtier and nastier. But this clown I free-handed. This also goes back to when I said I like to make it look like we're hoarders. I see little, other than painting, I'd also add like the furniture and the set pieces and stuff like that. This, like, I like to have little sections of, it's weird because it's in my head, but I like to have little sections of stacked trunks here or certain boxes here stacked a certain way. Things have to be a certain way as I see them in my head. This is a bunch of carnival junk. You have a bunch of the old rocking horses, clown dolls, netting for the circus, and then I throw in little clown faces and a bunch of grime and just a lot of build-up, just to kind of make that room feel more immersive and not so empty. So I just really like to put things certain ways and make the guests weave around it to make them feel more immersed into the environment and everything. And we're just a bunch of
I love
hoarders.
that picture, man. It's creepy as hell.
I can't believe you free-handed that. That's
It looks
awesome.
creepy as hell, dude. It's awesome.
Thank you. Weather did help me out on that with some of the chipping and stuff, but a lot of that, I mean, I detailed it. I would paint it normal and then age it, and then this is actually our carnival is outside, so our carnival is very weird. It's not your typical carnival. It's basically like Alice in Wonderland kind of feel, but very, I don't know, like you're tripping kind of thing. It's just very like a carnival junkyard kind of feel to it too. So
I love the
yeah.
idea of the carnival junkyard. That is such a cool idea. Yeah, I can see dust. Ideas are flowing.
That's one of my favorite things. Is I just like a lot of junk. I think it makes it feel more authentic, especially with a rundown house and rundown property. I mean, we're a country folk, and nobody's going to take care of their stuff out there. Nobody's going to take care of their house. We're all about the killing.
I can look at this next picture and like, I mean, that's crazy. I mean,
But that's the layering of colors.
I would have never imagined putting all them colors into it and then have it look that awesome.
Yeah, it was. I will say it was a job. That is that same shack that earlier that we had seen. The collars were that type of wood. You have to watch too, because you might have to add a couple extra layers because the wood will soak up the paint. So I had to work and keep adding and keep adding and keep adding just for it to build up that layer so it wouldn't soak up the paint. but I wanted it to just be very swampy, very just wet looking, because it leads into this is actually when you exit the house, the manor, and then you go into the backyard that is wooded, and then you go through hillbilly shack.
Damn, dude, that's awesome. It almost looks like it's like the whole thing was blue, and then the weather knocked it down, and there's still a little bit of blue in it.
I think we lost Josh briefly.
Yeah, I think we did
So
lose
we
Josh.
may need to move
Can you
on.
hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah.
there he
There
is.
he is.
Clear. All right, clear. All right.
Tell somebody to stop calling you.
They know I'm on here.
No, but what I was saying is,
Just kidding.
I loved how you had the blue in there, like it was actually painted blue, and then the weather washed it down, and there was only like couple blue panels left that was left with the original color. I mean, it was awesome.
The funny thing is with that is those couple boards that have that bluish grayish tint to it, that is just from the weathering solution from aging the board, so it naturally did that.
Damn, that's awesome.
I went through with the solution, sprayed it down with a big sprayer, let that soak in, and then it just naturally aged and weathered like that. And then I went on top and started painting on top of that once that was dry.
Right. Well, I could tell with this picture right here, the picture before.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work right there.
It was, but it was one of my favorite things I painted this year, and one of my favorite pieces of adding like the furniture pieces and set pieces and all that. So this is
I love the color scheme in here too.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, my friend, I don't know if you guys know him. His name is he goes by Fetters the Clown. He came down from Michigan and visited us for the first time this past December and took a couple photos. So this photo is by him.
Excellent.
So this is our cellar room, and a lot of these canned foods were found in the original house, so we put them to use. We go to a lot of flea markets to buy set pieces and stuff like that. So I went through and cobwebbed them. I glued every single one of those cans down so nobody would try to take them. And then went in and did some painting. This used to be our morgue room, so you can kind of see that paint job back there that used to be that hospital morgue look way back in like the third year.
That's fucking beautiful, man. I'm like, I'm looking at it, and it's like, where'd you get the old Lay's bucket potato chip?
Yeah, flea market.
You don't even see
flea
that.
Market, the best.
That's amazing.
Going back to that though, that we have found like one of our sinks in our morgue that we used to use was found underneath the house. We found shoes from like the 60s underneath the house. So we put a lot of things, and a lot of people give us stuff. A lot of people in town are awesome in the town of Wayne. They like to give us things that they have, some old vintage pieces. This is one of my favorite pictures of cobwebbing. This is on our grand staircase as you're going up. So it is the grand chandelier. And I just went to town with cobwebbing on that. That is some rust detailing from that shack again. For some reason, it just makes me happy seeing certain pieces set, like the tools set a certain way, and the rope hanging, and the chain, like the lamp has fallen in the back. Just different little touches like that just really brings me joy doing it.
Right. And you know what the saddest thing about it is like only haunters are gonna stare at that and be like,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like certain things. I don't know. We'll have some people come through and just be like, man, can we go back through just to look at the detailing?
Right. Because they're rushing
go back
through. Right.
Yeah, my mom, she'll go through and she'll be like, I couldn't see anything because I was just closing my eyes and screaming. So, but I mean, we'll have people that want to just go through and just look at everything. So I mean, it is a lot to look at. We want to a lot of inspiration comes from like Dent Schoolhouse. I think their place is beautiful. Their detailing, their all the intricate stuff they have there is beautiful. So I take a lot of inspiration from that kind of detailing and stuff like that too. Just to fill the place full, to give people that environment just to set them in, just like the other guy said, to make them feel like they're almost in a horror movie, or they're in this crazed hillbilly home of
Complete
this
immersion.
Deadwood family. Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
best thing.
You definitely got a knack for it, man. It's beautiful work. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have an extreme. I did do makeup. I still do makeup, but getting more and more into scenic painting and detailing, that is my ultimate passion and goal, just to get out there in the haunt industry and do more of it. So
Yeah, that reminds me, there was a question earlier, and maybe we can go back in a little bit here and ask this of everybody. But and forgive me because I forget who asked the question now. But how do you learn set design and scenic design and set dressing? Where is it out there to where's the tutorials? How do you learn it? Where does it come from?
with me,
hauntershangout.org.
yeah, that is I think too, you also have to
awesome.
have I was always an artsy kid going through school, doing art. Painting is my thing. I'm not much of a drawer. I like to paint, just slap some paint on a thing, create. But also you have to have that passion. You have to have that creative mindset for it too. Anybody can go into a room and throw paint on a wall. But to have that creative mind to go in and come up with this whole scenario for this room, to really immerse people into that. There's places, YouTube's great, Haunters Hangout's great. There's a lot of other scenic detailers out there that will help give you tips and tricks to grow in it. But honestly, practice. I look at pictures from when I first started doing actual scenic detailing, and I was like, what am I thinking? I mean, it was rough. So, but honestly, as the years go on, you learn, you research. Honestly, do your research on, look at pictures of abandoned places, worn down places. How do they look? If you want that authentic feel. Another big inspiration of mine is Nevermore Productions. I freaking love their work, their set.
Yeah.
So they're another big inspiration to me. But honestly, do your research, practice, don't give up. Because I still look at some of my stuff and I'm like, and I compare it to other big haunt detailers, and I'll get myself down and be like, well, I'm never going to be like that. But just keep working at it.
I think
Awesome.
you're pretty much almost right there.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Josh, thank you, man. It was,
Yeah.
Thank
But
you
hey,
guys.
but
it was
I'm
awesome
gonna
to have you on again and
but
to share your.
Hey, but one thing I gotta say, between all you guys, like if I copied into your shit, would you be mad about it?
I'm just gonna sue you. That's it.
That's all right. I ain't got no money, so you can sue all you.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, like, I just want to thank my support system. Like our Deadwood family is a huge support system. We are a family. We keep pushing each other to be what they want to be, do exactly what their passion is. So I just want to thank my Deadwood family, if they're watching, for always pushing me and supporting me in my scenic detailing, and giving me the opportunity from the owners too, for trusting me to create their haunt. So
Nice, class act.
So
Nice.
awesome, man.
thank
So
you,
awesome.
thank you.
Hey.
They're
Hey.
rolling their eyes at me right now. I know.
Hey,
that.
No.
Hey, beautiful. That's
But-
man, you do a beautiful job,
And
dude. That's
and just for
that's
other
super
resources
impressive.
too, all all of the guest info are in the title at the top. So definitely, if you guys, want to see some of their work, you can find their links up top. So I'm just going to put that little shameless plug in there for you guys. So,
Pandora,
right.
Pandora.
Go.
What do you need to do for the prizes again? Let's just get it for the
Hold on.
the latecomers.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
No, for the latecomers.
And for the latecomers, for those that did not hear Phil talk about this a little bit earlier, if you are named as a winner of a prize, you need to contact Jose by Saturday night. You must contact Diablo by Saturday night. He will not contact you in order to claim your prize. In order to win a prize, all you have to do is ask a question of our panelists. Whether we get to that question or not, you are automatically entered to win.
There you go.
Yes. Okay, Michael. Let's end the show on a high note. Ready?
Okay. So I'll try to cram it all in. I'll try to cram it all in.
No, you
10
got time.
minutes.
You got time. Take your time. Take your time.
Take your
Okay.
time. If it goes over, it goes over. This is my favorite show of the whole season.
So here's a thing we did for a haunt in England. Actually, it was based on The Walking Dead. And so if anybody's familiar with the show, there was Terminus, I think it was called, where they all, everybody thought it was where everyone was going to be
Savior
saved.
Land.
Actually,
yeah.
But they were actually eating people. And so one of the things that it's hard to do with an actor is severing a limb or a head and being able to do that over and over again. So
I do it all the time.
This is a prop. You gotta have if you've got a good supply that you can keep replenishing, that you can do that. But sometimes if you don't have enough actors to keep doing that, because I don't know about you, but I think you can only take that head off one time. But for something like this with a prop, we can do that over and over again. So here's you can kind of get the understructure of the guy. So this is he's not dressed yet, of course, and if you want to go to the next thing, this is another thing where we were shipping this from Florida to England. So basically, I just made that little plate to send to them. They gave me the dimensions, but when it got there, they just put those pipes right into tech screwed it into the ground, into their flooring. But that was to support it, and then they could slide it off and on. I like to try to make things, these props, so that they're easy to install, easy to remove, or manipulate so that you can repair them. So he's got a sleeve in each knee that goes up into the leg that lines up with those. So you screw those down to your base or your floor, and then he just slides right on and keeps them nice and stable. And this is what the effect looks like. So
that's awesome.
Oh damn!
And
I love it.
And there's a pump in there, so that
Ew,
that thing
that is so
it
good.
recycles. And so the actor, we work with the actor, and they come up and grab that by the head, and they've got a knife, and then they have a foot pedal, and they cut it, and there's a trough in front of them. So they slice his neck and pull it back, and when they pull it back, they would step on the trigger. And that's what's cool about these kind of interactive props is, it looks like pretty much like a real person, especially under the lighting and everything. And you can, and the actors can work with them. We try to make them as heavy duty as possible. Some people ask me, can you make it haunted house proof? And I said, there is no such thing. I make it haunted house resistant. Haunted house resistant. It's not, there's nothing. I don't care if it's built out of 6 inches of titanium. It is not, it will sustain some damage through a season in a haunted house.
Ryan was actually asking, how long does a prop like this last? 2 or 3 seasons, and what's the general wear and tear? How much do you get out of this?
A prop like this, and again, it's going to depend. When something like this, I didn't personally go to England, but we did send them a video like how to do it and teach that so they can show the actors how to work with it. the proper way to do it. But yeah, you could get several seasons out of these, out of something like this. That head, it's fiberglass, so it's pretty heavy duty. The weakest link on this is, of course, the hinge on his neck. And then the other thing too, there's the blood element. Now, we didn't do any blood for testing because I didn't want to have it stained ahead of time. But it has a pump system that goes through the body that goes down, has a clear tube. If you go to the next picture, I think you can see. So there's the tubing. So that's looking up inside of his head. And you can see there's a big, that's through the back. That's a big access hole. So we try to make all these kind of props so they're easy to access and repair. Something like this, if I didn't think it was going to last, or there was a real chance of them damaging it, we might make two. Sometimes we'll make two props so it can get switched out. If something gets damaged, you can switch it out really quick. That's
that lends itself to Dennis's question. Once you pump the blood, then your prop's covered in blood. Do you have a way to clean it in between, or do you leave it bloody, or do you have several backups, or is it just the one off?
No, on this, because it's an over and over again. One of the things about, like Joey was saying with his haunts, which I think is cool, when you can have a more personal experience and you could do something like that. If you've got a smaller group and you're doing, you got some time in between. Things like a big haunt, like Halloween Horror Nights, is basically, we would call it the conga line. I mean, they have so many people to get through in a night that it's just a continuous line of people, and it's impossible. Not everybody gets to see the effect, or gets to see it timed correctly, but you still get to see it. When it opens and the blood's coming out, it looks pretty cool, and it's a neat thing to see. But the hope is that there's enough effects and enough gags that you will get to catch one of them at some point, and get us in it, but it'll still look cool when you're going by. One of the things that I've done, not with this particular one, but I did a thing for Universal in Hollywood where we did a gag where we had it was kind of an illusion. I don't have any pictures of it, but we had an illusion where we took a guy out of the audience and they brought him up on stage. They put him on a rack that would stretch him out, and basically it was a fake body. We'd load him into it with not facing the audience, and then roll this thing up, and he had his arms up above him and he was stretched out, and then they would crank on it, and when at a certain point his middle section would pop, and we would spray water into the audience and backlight it with red lights. So when you saw this stuff coming at you, it looked like blood, but it was just water. And we've done similar effects, like something like this, where this one you really couldn't do it because it's coming down the front of his shirt. And here's the video. You can kind of see what it looks like when it operates.
That's awesome.
So, and then, and they could do, if they wanted, for the actual haunt, they had red tinted blood, fake blood, that would go through it. But, it's still, and even though it had that blood running down its thing, when you saw that stuff gurgling out, it was pretty cool. It got a really good effect.
Definitely. Travis would like to know if props are ordered from you in the next few weeks, what's your turnaround time?
We usually try to get everything out. It depends on what people need, but
of course,
we try
right.
to, based on when their stuff going in, but we try to get everything out, by late summer. And of course, we do it based on some things we have in stock. We try to stock a few of the items that are more popular. We try to get so we can get those out quicker. Something like that. That was a custom-made piece where they needed a specific effect, for a specific scene. That took, I want to say we built that. It was probably maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, because we had all the molds. And this is another thing I was going to talk about. Like, this was for Halloween Horror Nights, where we have to work really closely with the set builder, designer, and the scenic person. So this was from American Horror Story. there were if you remember the show there, when they had the witches, the one that took place in
Coven.
Coven, right? Exactly.
Mhm.
And the girls went up on the wall and had to go.
Yeah.
So we made a bunch of these that looked like they were floating up against the wall, but they had to be heavy duty enough that if somebody came up and hung on them, so they wouldn't fall off the wall. So it has a little little attachment mechanism through the front 2 places, and so we had to make sure that the Scenic designer worked with we worked with the Scenic designer and the construction people to make sure that there were studs behind those specific spots. I just got this one shot of it. We did about, I think, 4 or 5 of these different girls floating up against the wall.
Wow.
And super lightweight. We made them, and the cool thing about it matches the movie or the TV show. I mean, but the details are in her feet and her hands, and she does have a face. So if somebody gets right up against the wall and you look, you can see that she's got a face. But everything else is basically like a mannequin. It's just a fiberglass form, but super lightweight.
You guys must do a lot of fiberglass at this point. I don't really hear much.
Well, for these particular ones, I mean, I happen to pick. I thought for this show it'd be kind of cool to see if people could see the process of how we go about it. But we do tons and tons. I mean, we've poured probably 400 or 500 pounds of foam in the last 5 weeks. So we use a lot of foam. Here's a foam guy. Now this guy is not
awesome.
Okay. Well, this guy is not finished. This is this is another way how we have to work with the Scenic and the Scenic designer and the people who are going to decorate and help hide things. So this is from American Werewolf in London. This is not finished. This is super rough. But basically, when at Universal this was the first year they really used puppets. They wanted me to make costumes for people. Now, in the actual movie, American Werewolf in London, it was a guy in a suit. He wore the head. He was basically like a wheelbarrow. His arms were on the ground and his legs were up on a sort of a wheelbarrow rig. And there were a couple of guys pushing him from behind. And the head was literally on a helmet that looked forward. So he looked down at the ground and he just turned his head so the werewolf would look forward. And they kind of wanted me to do that, and I'm like, it works for the movie. When you're filming it, you have a lot you can do, but it wasn't really going to give us anything, and it would be very uncomfortable for an actor to do that over and over again. So I talked him into doing a puppet, and so I kind of had to rough this out just to sell the idea. So if you want to play it, you can kind of get an idea of how much motion we get with it.
This was a staple. This was a big talk. I remember. These puppets were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Yeah, they were a lot of fun. So, but you can see how much movement it gets.
That's awesome.
And now every year there are multiple puppets. I remember it was a fight to get them to to let us do puppets, and this is what helped sell it was this test right here. But now
I can see 100%.
Yeah. Now there's puppets, and the nice thing about this is you don't have to put an actor in makeup. They wear all black. You get a lot of movement out of it.
That's awesome.
They can wear thanks. But they can wear all black, no makeup involved. You can switch them out. It doesn't have to be doesn't matter if it's a male or female. The puppet's all designed to. You can get a lot of, and you can switch people out. It works great for a lot of different levels. But I really like puppets for this type because it just wouldn't have been the same with a person in a costume. You wouldn't have that much movement.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And so that guy's got a combination of, he's sort of a rod puppet. Basically all the movement comes from a control rod out the back. It's almost like a steering wheel, And on that steering wheel is a button. His jaw is pneumatic. His hands are just secured. We made 5 or 6 of these. I'm trying to remember. We did American Werewolf twice. And we made 5 or 6 of them. And so we just mount the hands, and the arms are all jointed, and you get all that movement just from that one controller in the back. And then it would come through a lot of time. You came through. We would use the Scenic. The set dressers would hide certain things with trees. Some of it was like we had a scene in the tube, which is like the subway system, where he comes through a wall. Basically it's kind of like the pig, where it's only the front half of it. You never see his back legs, but you don't need to. I mean, when he comes out, and he can come out quite a bit. That 2x4 frame just to support him was sort of the midpoint, and he could come out 3 or 4 feet. In fact, we had to pull him back a little bit because they come out too far and it make everybody slam into the wall on the other side, or we're afraid we end up hitting somebody with the front because he's a pretty good sized werewolf.
Dan would like to know, Michael, do you ever work with other prop manufacturers on certain projects, like for instance Distortions or others?
Not specifically. Years and years ago, I did through Morris Costumes. I did the prototypes for a Predator, life-size Predator figure, and a Pumpkinhead figure. I got the original one because I was based in California.
Right.
What's that? And so we ended up doing the. I did the prototypes and then handed the Predator molds and stuff off to Distortions, and they produced them for a while, and then we did the Pumpkinheads. But
So typically it's a solo kind of thing. Very rarely are there collaborations. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But it has happened.
And then Michael.
So this is one thing. This was for a thing called Dark Harbor, where it was a good example of. Luckily, we were installing it, so you can see she's kind of sitting up on this box. This was this weird. They had these secret bars, and so there was this. You had to reach through the intestines, and there was like a special lever and then that whole wall would, like a secret wall, would open up, and there was a bar behind it, and you had to read these clues to get into it. And so this was an example, which was, it worked out really well that we did the installation, because they gave me the completely wrong measurements for that section, and she did not fit in there. And so we had to bring her in, and that's a foam body. She's just one of our foam girls, and we had to on site come in and chop her up and custom fit her in there. We always mount like on things like this because this one did get a lot of handling. So we foamed basically a big piece of wood in the back so she could be mounted right up inside that piece. And so no matter how much they tugged on it, it was really hard to get her off. But but we had to completely redo the bottom half and redress it and re-bloody it up, since we didn't get the correct dimensions. I think they gave us the right dimensions of what they wanted to build, but when they got on set, on site, they had to change because of the location. They had to alter their dimensions, so it just sort of trickled down to us.
Yeah, well,
Alan Hops wanted to mention that he has the MVP Sasquatch in his Monster Museum from 1999. It's fiberglass and still looks great.
Oh, great. I love Alan. And Alan, I've got your big Murray head. I will bring that to Transworld for you.
There you go. Yeah. A meeting of the great minds.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. Honestly, amazing work. It was great to have you on, and a pleasure to pick your brain and learn from one of the greats. So thank you. And yeah, so I know some people have been waiting for some prizes. So Pandora, I'm going to pass over to you to see who won tonight.
All right. And a reminder, if I call your name, you must yourself contact Diablo by Saturday night in order to claim your prize. If you do not contact him by then you forfeit said prize. So thank you so much to our guests and to our sponsors for providing these fantastic prizes for tonight. Our winners are from Halloween Shirt Company, a free shirt to Cindy Wortman. From Fright Night Studios, thank you very much, Michael. The Bloody Hatchet goes to Barry Flanagan.
Barry, here's your hatchet right here.
Fright Props, $25 off, goes to John Jeffries. Cobwebs and Candlesticks grab bag gift goes to Pamela Perroquet. Rotten Prop Works set of arms goes to Victor Ruelas. Garrett badges. He never warns me about the clapping.
Oh, sorry.
Scarrett badges, 10 assorted badges, goes to RJ McGee.
Woohoo.
Monsters Alive, $25 off, goes to Bobby Atkinson. Sam Haynes, free download, Mike Clark. Floor Ornaments, the Bat House ornament, Michael Hall. Drop Dead Design Studios, 25% off, Damon Carson. Toxic Effects, Shrunken Pumpkinhead, goes to Ryan Ruger. Oh, I was waiting for the clap. I thought for sure you were doing it there. Froggy's Fog, Gallon of Bog Fog goes to Danny Patrick. Ned's LEDs, hashtag I am Ned. I am the Ned. 5 LED sample pack. 5 LED sample pack goes to Jeff Foster. Nightmare Makers, 2 unpainted skulls.
You got
goes
it.
to Victor Ives. And 916 Productions, $25 off, Darren Talmadge. Atmos Effects, free download, goes to Dan McCorrison. And now we can all clap for everyone who won this evening. And thank you so much to our vendors. Thanks to our sponsors. We appreciate you. Happy Monday on a Thursday.
Damn,
Cheers.
happy Monday.
And thank you so much to our guests, Joey, Joshua, Michael. We appreciate you so much. You are a wealth of information. And I do hope you'll have an opportunity to go back and look through the questions and comments that we weren't able to get to tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having
us.
Thank you guys.
Diablo.
Thank you to our sponsors again, and
I know.
we're out of here.
It
See you
was
next week, right?
It was amazing. It was an amazing show. It's like probably one of my favorite shows of the season. I mean, I love them all, but the set design is always like one of my favorites. And we want to thank everybody for coming on. And you guys are amazing. It's a wealth of information. And I want to thank all of our sponsors for to give everything that they do for us. And make sure you go to them for all our haunt needs. The season's coming up, and Transworld's coming around, and we're next week we're gonna have a Transworld show with all of our sponsors, so you'll be able to see what they have in store, and make sure you stop by their booth and thank them for being a sponsor of the Hangout, and that's it. And thank you.
We love you. Happy hunting. Thanks for joining us.
Happy haunting. Get to building.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Man, that was a good show, man.
All right,
you guys are so
the live
great.
Video has ended. Great job, guys. Thank you.